Jim Jefferies is a Sydney boy and now one of the world's most popular, respected and fantastic comedians. If you don't believe me, just jump on Netflix. He is everywhere. But got the new project now. It's the Audible original podcast series, The Outrageous True Story of Milky Moore. And I'm thrilled to say Jim Jefferies is here with us from the States on Triple M Breakfast this morning. Hello, Jim.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Talk about this podcast series. I was explaining to the guys this incredible story because I'm a big fan, and I had to say, because I couldn't do it justice. I said, you have got a James Packer, Mariah Carey story that I can't ever possibly do justice. Could you give us like a 2-minute version of this amazing story?
It's a 30-minute story, but I'll give you the bare bones. But basically, I think Packer and Mariah Carey, when they were dating, obviously, were laying in bed one day and they were watching me do the gun control routine, and then so my management gets a phone call from Mariah Carey's people, and they say, we want you to do James Packer's birthday, right? So I'm like, all right. I remember my management said some guy called Packer, and I'm there going, oh no, he's quite well off. He's doing all right. Yeah. So in the real story, in the, I didn't sign an NDA, so in the story I tell on stage, I say I go to Mariah's house, but the real place I went was Brett Ratner's house before he was Me Too'd and cancelled, the director, right? Because he used to be Rat Pack Productions, right? So I was there, and I was hidden in the kitchen because I was like this big birthday present, because that's what you buy rich people. They don't want material things. They want to look at humans doing tricks. Right? So I got locked in the kitchen, and I'm sitting there all nervous. I don't even know who's out there. And Eddie Murphy comes back to find a bottle of water or something like that. And Eddie Murphy's my hero. Delirious was the first comedy special I ever watched. Right?
Yeah, me too.
So I'm sitting there, and Eddie Murphy comes up, and like I just did the sitcom where I had the disabled guy in the wheelchair. I had the sitcom, and he goes, I know you. You're the guy who does the TV show with the disabled boy. And I'm like, I am. That is me. I am the guy who does it. He goes, I like that show. And he goes, what are you here for? I said, I'm going to do stand-up. And he goes, that's not going to go well. Right? So my hero, I never do private parties or anything like that. Anyway, so Brett Ratner had like a no-shoe policy. You know these people. You go over their bloody house. You're not allowed to wear shoes all the time, right? So I'm already in me just socks, right? And so I go out into the garden, and I go, they don't announce I'm going to be on. Someone just says, it's your turn to perform. And so I walk out there. They're sitting like on this table, this long table, maybe 20, 30 people with tiki torches around them. And they're dining, and there's waiting staff and all that type of stuff. And I walk out there in my socks, and no one announces me. And I'm like, no microphone. So the difference between stand-up comedy and a nut job just saying what they want is a microphone, right? And so there's no stage or anything. So I just walked out in my socks, and I was like, hello, everyone, like that. And Al Pacino's sitting there, right?
Stop it.
And he's like this. He's like, who? Why? Like this, like a cartoon character. Warren Beatty's there. Warren Beatty's like bemused and confused. And I was like, Mariah's smiling through the whole thing because she thought this would be more spectacular than it was. So I get up, and I'm starting to do a bit of stand-up, and it's not going very well. And Packer's like smoking a dart, and he looks at me, and he just sort of goes, do the gun control bit. And I'm like, and I hadn't performed that bit in a couple of years. I didn't remember how it went and how physical it was. I'm dragging myself along the grass like I'm Oscar Pistorius with no legs, like
in your socks.
So halfway through the story, Leonardo DiCaprio shows up to the party late. I'm still talking, and DiCaprio's there, and everyone greets him like he's Norm from Cheers and goes, Leo. And he's got a beard because he just did that movie with the bear, you know. So he's got a big beard and everything like that. And he's like, hey, everyone. Like that. And then I just stop, and they chat to him for minutes. And I'm just standing, next to him. Like this, and Leonardo DiCaprio points at me and goes, "What's all this about?" And Pacino says, we don't know. Right? Now, I told her that bit on stage, but I'll tell you a little bit that happened afterwards. So afterwards, this was a house in the Hollywood Hills. There's nowhere to park cars. So they had you valet your car at the bottom of the hill, and then a golf cart would take you up to the party, right? So after the party, I had to get a golf cart back to my car, and the only person,
were you still in your socks, by the way? Or
I had my shoes in my hands. Right, so I get into the golf cart, and Pacino jumps on with me, and it's just me and Pacino in the golf cart. I tell you, if you ever get the chance to ride in a golf cart along a bumpy road with Al Pacino, it's everything you'd hope for. It was like he was doing a sketch of Al Pacino in a golf cart. He was sitting there going, "Oh, it's bumpy ride."
Oh my God, that is one of the greatest stories.
That was one of the most
heard.
epic stories I've ever heard.
I told you I couldn't do it justice. That's why we had to get Jim Jefferies to tell that story.
When we're off the air, I'll tell you a few more things that didn't happen.
Jimmy, I've got a nephew who works at the Manly Boat Shed, and I believe that might have been where your first ever gig was. Is that correct?
I believe it was my first or second gig. I would possibly say it was my first. I used to go down to the Manly Boat Shed. I actually went down there a couple of years ago just to perform, and it was mayhem. It's a wonderful little place to do stand-up. I believe that all stand-up works well with a low roof. Anytime there's a high ceiling and the laughs dissipate, you keep everyone down and hooked in down. It's much better. But I did the Manly Boat Shed, and then I did a couple at the Comedy Store back when it was in Petersham. Yep. And my second gig ever, and like my first gig I was 17, then my second gig I was still 17, but I told my dad, I said, I'm doing stand up, and I hadn't told my parents. My father said, I'll come out with you. And because I couldn't get into the bar without him, Right. So my dad takes me along, and we go there, and it was hail, like storming outside. And the only people who showed up were the other open mic comedians, and they were all like in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. And I was like 17, and my whole routine was about a girl at school I liked who wouldn't, talk to me or something like that. And I just got no laughs whatsoever. Aww. And I get into the car with my dad, and my dad's like this. It was raining. I can remember the wipers going back and forth. And my dad said to me like this, he goes, "Yeah, you're a good lad, and you're a good boy, and you've got a lot of fine qualities, and people like you, but this isn't for you." And I didn't do it again till I was 20.
Have you ever referred to that moment with your dad, though? Have you gone, "Hey, Dad"?
He knows. If I buy him a present or something, I always remind him. I'm petty.
Yeah, me too. We all are.
And where did your love and passion for the North Sydney Bears, where did that evolve?
I was a North Sydney Bears supporter from the time I was born. My brothers and my father were all Manly supporters, and my dad really he started supporting the Bears when my father grew up in Roma. My father actually went to school with
Queensland.
Willie Nelson, not Willie Nelson. Who's the winger for the Broncos?
Willie Kahn.
Willie Kahn's father, Arthur Beetson, and my dad were all mates. They were in a sort of in a group.
Yeah.
Went to school together, right, in Roma. And so when my father moved down, he said he followed the Bears for a little bit, and then he gave up on them because he used to go out to North Sydney Leagues Club, and he said, and they drove on the right side of the road in the car park because they designed it wrong. Yeah. Right. They still have it. You go down there now, you still drive on the right-hand side of the road. In the North
it's an international experience. It's cultured.
And my dad said they'll never win a fucking premiership until they fix this car park. Right. And so he gave up on him, but I was always into the red and black. My happiest memories as a child was going down. I actually once, I sang the national anthem at the ground as I won a prize to sing with the Killarney Heights Big Band down at the thing. Yeah, man.
What song did you sing?
The national anthem. You don't know how it goes. Anyway, so I was a big fan. So I actually went down. I'm trying my best to get the Bears back in the competition. I know it won't be the North Sydney Bears anymore. They'll just be called the Bears. And whether they move to a different city, I know Perth's interested, and there's some other places. I'd like to be involved in some type of consortium where we get the Bears back. And I'm sort of in talks with that at the moment. They need an 18th team. People love the Bears, man. It was everyone's second team. There's
I'm
no one
with
who's
you.
like, I hated the Bears. Everyone had a soft spot for the Bears, man. And also that team in the 90s with Greg Florimo, Gary Larson, David Fairley.
Billy Moore.
They never won anything, but they were one of the great teams. Like Matt Sears as a junior coming at the back, Mark Soden, a fantastic team. And so I'd like to see the red and black and that Bears logo playing somewhere.
Bloody oath. Well, if you ever need a voice to bring them back, if we could ever be your megaphone, come on anytime and, we'll get right behind you.
Well, I played in Perth, Jimmy, for 3 years, and we had a kind of fleeting moment over there. And I know that recently there's been a big bit of a push to put the Bears and the Reds, or the Western, maybe call them the Western Bears, and play half the games at North Sydney Oval and half the games in Perth, because I think there's an audience there for it. And I think if you're going to think of an 18th team, you've got to think outside the square a bit. And I don't know, for the life of me, why you wouldn't consider the Bears and Perth together. At least I'd rather something of nothing than all of something, a little bit of something than all of nothing.
I think you only need 2 or 3 games at North Sydney Oval just to keep the fans happy. Like a lot of people in Sydney, the away games will be home games for them. And Perth, is one of the options that we're looking at the moment. Like also when you played for Perth, I remember that Perth was still a population of about 1 million people. Now there's 2 million people there. Exactly. And it's one of those real expat cities. A lot of people moved over there for work, for whether they're working mining or finance or whatever. Yep. There's a lot of rugby league fans that used to be East Coast people that now live in Perth that are hungry to have their own team.
Yeah.
I think the union, like, even if you look at like over there's a huge British population. So the Perth Glory were the first team in the Australian soccer to start selling tickets. The Glory had a huge following over there. And the Brits also like rugby league, and I think that could be a good fit.
God, you've got so much knowledge on it. This is not how I was expecting it to go. This is unreal.
We could talk to you all day, Jim.
Yeah. That's all. I sit around in LA all day thinking about the Bears.
Of all your successes, you've really...
Cannot wait for the Audible podcast series, The Outrageous True Story of Milky Moore. It's on there right now, audible.com.au/Milky. Jim Jefferies, so cool to talk to you this morning, and congrats on all the success.
Good on you,
Thanks,
champion.
lads. I appreciate it, everyone.